Hello, everybody, and welcome. We're going to give a few minutes for everybody to get into the meeting here, and then we will begin. Okay. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to our webcast. I'm Jessie Kasner, the Chief Marketing Officer for Flora Growth. Thank you all for being here today. So on Monday, as all of you know, Flora Growth, a leading all-outdoor cultivator, manufacturer, and distributor of global cannabis products and brands, announced a definitive agreement to acquire Franchise Global Health, multinational cannabis and medical distributor with principal operations in Germany. So today we're going to discuss the nature of the deal, the synergies between the two companies, and the opportunities that lay ahead. Just keep in mind that both companies will be reporting Q3 results over the next few weeks. So there won't be any statements made with respect to forward-looking financial performance or projections. So keep that in mind. After we go through some of our prepared remarks, we will open it up to analyst and media Q&A. So with no further ado, I'll introduce our members of the team that are joining us today. From Flora, of course, we have Luis Merchant, Chairman and CEO, Elshad Garayev, Chief Financial Officer, and Jason Warnock, our Chief Commercial Officer. And from the Franchise Global Health team, we have Clifford Stark, CEO, and Danny Vayman, Chief Financial Officer. Thank you guys all for being here today.
So it's good to be here, Jessie.
Great. So before we dig into sort of the nature of the deal, Luis, for those not familiar, can you tell us a little bit about, who Flora is and where we stand in the international cannabis market?
Yeah, absolutely, Jessie. And I think by way of introduction, it's important that I share a brief update on my background. Several of members of the audience don't know about me. So let me start there. I'm a former Macy's executive, have over 15 years of corporate experience in consumer packaged goods, retail, enterprise management, and of course now cannabis. At Macy's, which is the last company I worked for before Flora, I had the opportunity to lead the sales organization for beauty, which is probably the most important family of business in that company, a multi-billion-dollar sales line for that organization. Most recently, of course, I became a member of the National Association of Corporate Directors, which is the largest association of the kind in the United States. And there I'm certified as a corporate director, which is a testament to Flora's commitment to corporate governance. So now let me move into Flora. For those of you who, for the first time, are learning about our company, at Flora, we believe that cannabis will dramatically improve the well-being of consumers around the globe, and that it will become an international trade. Our company exists today to capitalize on that opportunity. We grow cannabis outdoors in natural conditions that are replicated indoors all over the world. And we grow it with exceptional quality standards at a superior cost structure. Our growth strategy is rooted on three growth pillars. The first one is our house of brands, which refers to our consumer packaged goods. This sector represents the lowest barriers of entry for the cannabis industry. And through our portfolio, we have been able to realize revenues at a rapid pace with very healthy margins. Our second pillar is our cultivation and transformation, which very simply refers to our flower. We have built a robust infrastructure out of Colombia and in the United States, including all regulatory requirements to grow and export high THC and high CBD flower across the globe. And our third pillar is life sciences, where we're judiciously investing in scientific-based research to ensure that pharmaceutical formulations are safe and can treat conditions such as pain, anxiety, and insomnia. Back to you, Jessie.
Fantastic. Thanks, Luis. And Cliff, it would be great to hear from you as well. How is FGH currently positioned within the cannabis industry?
Thank you. Yeah. So our full focus, which a lot of analysts know us quite well at this point, but our full focus is on Germany. Our strong points are on the distribution front. Historically, we're the first license in Germany, first gram sold ever. In terms of distribution outlets, we're into 1,200 plus pharmacy locations. And really our bread and butter on the global scale is on wholesale distribution, which if this cannabis market is going to come to life, which we all believe so, especially with the news recently, we're extremely well positioned to go past Germany into the rest of Europe. Very important to understand that, 75-80% of sales in Europe are accounted in Germany. So if you're not in Germany, not technically in Europe. And then besides that, we have a great team across the board corporately. And this combination now is really important because it finally fills our biggest issue, which is supply. And I was very fortunate to go and visit Flora's facility and spend a ton of time with the team over the last 6 weeks. And, when we started up in Germany and going to 2019, we were selling 60, 70, 80 kgs a month quite easily. And unfortunately, supply constraints really limited us. And now we're back on path to regain market share. So we're very excited for the opportunity, and I'm great to be on the call with everyone.
That's great, especially exciting given all the news that's been coming out even just this morning. So thanks for that. And so now to get into some of the meat of the conversation today, Luis, can you begin by laying out at a high level the terms of the acquisition and help the listeners understand the timeline for completion of the deal?
Yeah, of course. And then I'll allow Cliff to follow on my commentary. But obviously, we did this deal for very specific reasons, which Cliff just highlighted. We are poised to become a leader in the international cannabis trade. And if you want to play in the international cannabis, you got to be in Europe. And having the know-how, having the expertise, the distribution into Germany was incredibly important to us. And for that reason, we wanted to find a partner, and finding franchise, Cliff, Danny, and the team in Germany was just incredibly strategic. And we certainly believe that it will be incredibly accretive to our investors and franchise investors. As far as the deal goes, of course, there's a very robust plan of arrangement that is readily available to the public, but it's an all-stock deal. The consideration is for up to 36% of Flora shares. We expect that the deal will close by mid to early December, and that is because it will need to be there needs to be a vote by franchise shareholders, which we feel strongly we're going to get to 66 and two-thirds of the vote by franchise shareholders, as well as an appointed court judge will have to sign off on the deal. And that's why the timeline is all the way to early to mid-December. We also felt strongly, and this was very important to us, as it has been in every transaction we've made, that in order to ensure continuity and that we fully leverage the capabilities of the team that we're acquiring, that key members of the team remain. So that will include Cliff and Danny remaining, of course, as part of the team, as well as many other members of the franchise organization, as well as 2 members that are going to be nominated by Cliff and the board of directors of franchise will join Flora's board to help guide the strategic pathway for Flora in the future. Cliff?
Yeah, that's great. There's a couple keywords also. It's sustainability. Together, we have a very sustainable business. We have extremely strong revenue pro formas without really executing on really what we're trying to do, which is become a fully integrated medical cannabis company of high THC products. Another thing important to know of why it was important for us is Luis and his team have an unbelievable business based in Lauderdale on brands and distribution into the mom and pop shops in the CBD world. If we could replicate that in Europe, where there's, I think, way less competition, probably higher margin business, that's another segment we're really going to focus on. So we have a lot of work to do. We're very excited. We've all worked extremely hard. Another thing also to take is their cost cutting. There's a lot of repetitive costs on both sides that we've cut off. And I think everyone's moving forward as a team. Everyone's meshed really well. The deal went extremely well. I think for all shareholders across the board, it's an amazing deal. I think I want to stay positive, and I really see cannabis rebounding hard. And not only politically, just I think the numbers are going to get better. I think there's going to be more consolidation in the space. It's marking a bottom to me. And I think you're going to see a quick rip at some point in time. And I think we're well positioned for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And just sort of tack onto that, you guys both sort of mentioned it, but can you each dig into, when we think about integration and activation of the deal, highlight some of the core members of each company that will be helping to sort of realize the synergies between the two groups, some of the key go forward members that maybe weren't already mentioned.
Yeah, look, I'll highlight a couple of members, Jesse, starting from our board of directors. I think it's important to highlight that from day one, we wanted to ensure appropriate governance and appropriate oversight, and ensuring that a board was independent and that was supporting the fiduciary duty towards its shareholders. For that reason, we have a board that is very diverse. A couple of members that I'll highlight for you are Mark Mastronardi, current Chief Stores Officer at Macy's, Brandon Konigsberg, who just joined us, a former divisional CFO for JP Morgan Chase. We also have Tim Leslie, who's a former senior executive for Amazon. So there's a tremendous diversity in terms of thought, and also as well a tremendous independence. And I'll highlight Dr. Annabelle Manalo-Morga, which sits in between. She leads our scientific efforts from a management perspective, but she also leads the scientific commentary from a board perspective as well. And I think in terms of the management team, I'll highlight that we have built an incredible team that not only comes with Flora, but has come with every acquisition. A couple of members, of course, are you, Jesse, who came via the vessel acquisition, as well as Hussein Rakin, who's the founder of JustCBD, continues to operate what is today our most important consumer packaged goods brand, and continues to generate meaningful revenue and organic growth in 2022.
Okay. For our side, it's really simple. Over the last number of years, the guys who we put complete trust in operating and growing Germany is Jan Anderson and Nasir Bhatti, who have been in the import-export pharmaceutical distribution space for 20 plus years and have built companies from scratch up to significant companies within the German marketplace. These guys are anticipating and waiting very patiently for 100 to 200 kgs to come in every single month. In terms of their retail and wholesale distribution network, it's all poised and ready to go. As everyone knows, Germany is still a growing market, still quite early. The key is, when's that wholesale going to turn on? And we're extremely well positioned at. Sure, it comes at probably a lower price versus directly to the pharmacy. We're talking about moving mass product. So Jan and Nas are excited. Those are the key members in our team in Germany. We let those guys go and run the business, and they've met Luis. We spent all time together, and we all share the same values in building a sustainable, strong business, but focused on high margin SKUs, i.e. cannabis.
That's great. So just to sort of take it one step further, we sort of have an understanding of the team, but Luis, can you help lay out, and I think Cliff, you'll have some keen insights here as well, but lay out the value chain that's ultimately created by the two companies coming together?
Yeah, look, I think it's been highlighted already a couple of times. Obviously, Clifford has the know-how, the experience, the infrastructure and distribution in Germany, the single most important market in Europe. He highlighted that 80% of the cannabis revenues come out of that country, and we have the input. We have a high quality input that is grown. We have over 20% THC strains that are consistently being harvested today at our cultivation facility, and we're looking forward to connect a meaningful input to consumers in the European market, specifically Germany. And as we look into the future, we certainly believe that distribution would extend beyond Germany into the entirety of Europe and beyond.
And you're successfully already exporting. You guys understand the path of import-export, which is very crucial.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I just think it's important to highlight that, you know, even though the international cannabis trade is in its early stages, we are a company that currently is exporting into international markets, into European markets. So we have already cleared the highest hurdle, which is getting the product, harvesting the product, and exporting it. Now we're just looking forward to doing it consistently, and we're looking forward to doing it to the most meaningful market in the world today that allows for imports of these products, which is, of course, Germany.
Also, United States have done a good job being able to successfully get into the United States, right? So they have a great team in Colombia. I visited them. There's 150 plus employees there in all different segments. And besides that, what I'm really excited about is the JustCBD sector or business is, I think, very, very easy to replicate in Europe. There's a head office now in London, which I'm going to be positioned in starting January. And all the business is going to be run out of there. And I think there's going to be way less competition on higher margin businesses. And if we all focus, I think we'll be able to execute quite well.
And Cliff, as we're sort of talking about the EU more broadly, but Germany specifically, obviously there was some, new news that came out this morning, but can you just quickly give us a state of play for medical versus adult use in Germany? Any insights into timeline or regulations or anything like that? As you guys have feet on the street there, you guys are probably well positioned to inform the rest of the listeners here.
Yeah, we get asked that question a lot. We
Okay.
also have, touch base with regulatories nonstop on a bunch of different products and launches. This deal did not happen because of the upside of recreational. I think we're really focused on the medical market today. The way the rec's being positioned is get somewhat confusing, to be honest with you. And until we see the full outlook, I know stuff came out this morning, but still, there's just things that aren't making sense to me from a legal standpoint in terms of moving goods throughout the EU, which we have to understand way more. But obviously, there's tremendous upside there. Everyone's really excited. I think more for the position of politically, everything's finally moving. And if Germany goes, expect the rest of Europe to go. But this deal is really done on first focus on medical. If they're getting set up the way that rec is getting set up now, it actually favors us medically. In terms of price point, we're holding up extremely well. Okay, we have a massive shortfall in terms of what we have to fulfill. And politically, it's hard to comment on because, yeah, things came out today, but who knows what happens over the next couple quarters, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
But look, if I can just add some complimentary commentary around what's happening in the globe. When you look at our infrastructure and where we're located today, you can see in the United States, there's meaningful change. Several states up on the ballot here in the next couple of weeks to legalize recreational cannabis. Of course, the president pushing for the move from Schedule 1 to possibly Schedule 3 of cannabis, which would be massive for us. The move on safe banking, which we are hopefully it will come to fruition in the short term. In Colombia, we have a pro-cannabis government that is rapidly advancing cannabis for adult use. We expect that to happen in the early stages of next year. And of course, we're now able to export flower, export derivatives, manufacture consumer products for export. That's already happening in Colombia. And then when you pair that with what's happening in Germany and with franchise, we have a tremendous opportunity, and we are strategically positioned to take advantage of the cannabis trade as it becomes global.
Yeah, one more thing also is, which is interesting, is so when we started in cannabis in Germany, I mean, you're talking about we had probably 125% CAGR growth quarter over quarter. Patient growth was growing 25% a quarter. And then suddenly you see it kind of stagnant more or less. And I think from a growth perspective, looking in Germany, it's not a good idea to no longer look at prescriptions, because what's happening now is literally there's a network happening throughout the pharmacies, and someone who enjoys cannabis, maybe for rec reasons, is looking in the system that has a medical card and just literally going and buying. Because usually, I don't know, 65 or so percent of people are covered by insurance. The guys who want 24% above THC are just going and literally paying. So that's not getting accounted for in the system in terms of numbers, which is interesting to note.
Well, there's certainly more to come out of that, and we'll be well positioned to take advantage when it does. So with that, we will now open it up to our Q&A session with our analysts and approved media. So if you can go ahead and just use the raise your hand button, and we will go ahead and open it up to the Q&A. All right, so we will start here with Aaron Gray from AGP. Aaron, go ahead and unmute yourself when you're ready.
Hi, can you guys hear me all right?
We can.
Yep.
All right, fantastic. Good afternoon. Thanks for taking the time, guys, and congrats on the acquisition.
Thank you, Aaron.
Yeah, definitely. So first and foremost, kind of kick it off with the kind of new news that hit, this week. We're kind of all, taking it in, how it might, unfold, and still more that could be changed as, they're going to send the potential legalization of adult use of Germany to the European Commission. But, Clifford and Luis, what's your kind of initial take in terms of, how the rules, are being laid out, particularly for production and cultivation, how you're kind of reading it and interpreting it? And secondly, in a scenario of not being allowed to export or import, how do you think you can still utilize the existing distribution network that FGH has to still participate in the network of adult use?
Yeah, Clifford, why don't you start? I'll compliment.
I'm actually quite confused with what came out. I just don't see how it's possible, to be honest. We also know all the facilities within Germany where I don't even think they're going to have great quality product, nevertheless be able to meet actual real demand when it comes. I also don't understand how within the EU you're going to be able to stop cross-border type of stuff. It doesn't make sense to me. I think there's a lot more to understand on that front. And like we said from the start, we didn't do this deal. We spoke to you a couple of days, we didn't do this deal necessarily to go attack rec, even though Luis's background is perfect to actually go do that eventually. But really, we want to get a high margin SKU product medical. We know exactly what our margins are embedded in, and our focus is on importing high quality medical cannabis to feed our patients and our wholesale network. And if they go this way on rec, I think it's actually advantageous to us on the medical side.
Yeah, and I'll complement that by highlighting, Aaron, that regardless of how confusing some of the regulatory announcement came in today, is still incredibly positive for the industry to see Germany move forward with a proposal that will allow consumers to have 20 to 30 grams of cannabis for adult use purposes inside of Germany. There's also like meaningful commentary inside about how it's going to be distributed, whether it's specialty shops or specialty shops or pharmacies. Obviously, franchise has a very robust pharmaceutical distribution network in Germany that we're going to leverage. That will be our number one priority. And obviously, industry experts know and understand that in order for the demand to be fulfilled over the long term in Germany, there will have to be imports allowed into the country. So that's likely something that is going to come. We're just going to be patient in terms of when, and we're just going to prioritize what we know we can do and leverage today, which is the medical market.
Also, Aaron, were you kind of a little bit confused seeing that in terms of not being able to do cross-border stuff within the EU? Is that a surprise?
Yeah, I mean, I guess from the leak draft that came out kind of last week, it kind of like made a little bit less of a surprise, right? But then, yeah, Luis, we had you on a panel the other week at our conference, right? And there was some other panels noting, how prudent the German, government is, and they said they wouldn't be the most surprised. So I think, I'm talking to more and more people, I guess coming to the realization that it could come. But on the flip side, there's like we just talked about whether or not how you get enough, production there, especially by 2024 deadline. So second question, quick one for me, and then I'll pass it along is, we talk a lot about cannabis, but I think you also mentioned in the press release CBD opportunities as well within Europe. So I'd love to kind of get some more color in terms of how you think, FGH can help with your CBD initiatives within Europe.
Yeah, look, I'll start and I'll allow Cliff to add commentary as well. I think, when you're building distribution and are positioning a brand in a market, it's important that you understand that market, that understand the consumer and understand what they're looking for and how to reach and build those relationships with those communities. So the fact that Cliff, as he mentioned, is going to be based out of London, he's going to lead the entire European efforts, and the launch of our brands is going to be a very meaningful advancement of already positioned operations. As we mentioned earlier on the call, Aaron, we have already an office for our brand portfolio in London, and we're looking to accelerate the deployment of our resources into those markets that are already experiencing a high rate of adoption. There is a significant opportunity to launch in big box retail, in significant e-commerce mass retail distributors, as well as what we know to be traditional is cannabis product distribution, like smoke shops in the United States. There's a large proliferation of those types of distributions across the European Union, and we firmly believe that Cliff and the franchise team are going to help us realize the potential at a far rapid pace.
Yeah, like you said, I don't want to be too repetitive, but Hussein's doing a really good job. He carried it over into Europe. He's seen high growth quarter over quarter, with not much capital behind him to start. Our side in terms of distribution logistics is very simple for us. It's just handling another SKU, no issues. Teams are getting integrated on that. What's going to be interesting is how Hussein and Yan and Nas work together on attacking our wholesale distribution. That would be very interesting. So you're talking about, we go after big wholesale deals, and I think Yan and Nas are probably going to be able to deliver some big CBD, into the big retailers for sure.
All right, great. Really appreciate the call. Thanks for taking the time, guys. I'll go ahead and jump back in the queue and pass it along.
Thanks, Aaron. Okay, now we will move on to Scott Fortune from Roth. Hey, Scott.
Hello, good morning or afternoon for all you. Thank you for the questions. Just want to follow up a little bit. I mean, you have a huge opportunity on the medical cannabis side here in Germany, and just want to get a sense for franchise, where the current revenue is coming from the medical cannabis versus non-cannabis. And you're selling right now to 1,200 pharmacies. I assume you have a lot of room to really grow those 1,200 pharmacies, but there's also, 20,000 plus pharmacies in Germany. So how do you look at kind of the expansion opportunities? And what's been missing now that Flora growth obviously is supply? How much supply can we talk about really selling into those 1,200 pharmacies? That'd be helpful to understand.
Yeah, so let's just go back in time a little bit. 2019, we had just under 20% market share, and that was mostly importing Bedrocan and moving into our network. That was just through one of our divisions called ACA, which is the first license. So that 1,200 pharmacies is just in that. Our other business, Fatibo, we actually buy all our goods from the pharmacies and are them in the countries. So we have maybe not 20,000, but a ton of network on the pharmacy side. Today, sales on the cannabis side are extremely low versus what they were historically, simply on put that we don't have supply. I would say moving forward on a conservative level, I would imagine, and give us, a quarter and a half to ramp up and get organized, minimum 100 kgs, more like 200 kgs on a monthly basis. Into our pharma network and our wholesale, depending how it's taken. We want to be careful launching the wholesale. You only have one opportunity to do it properly. Okay. And if we don't for sure have the exact same product coming consistently and quantity wise, we're not going to launch on the wholesale side. But once we do, it'll be big numbers, I would imagine. So we're looking to regain market share. Besides the 1,200 pharmacies, we have access to plenty more, obviously.
And maybe a follow-up on that. Thanks, Clifford. Follow-up on that. Kind of what are the German consumer pharmacy medical patients looking for? Obviously, we hear 25% plus THC quality and such. How are you looking at number of strains, kind of products that you can offer? I think you had a couple of Bedrocan, kind of as we look out for the future and opening up more pharmacy distribution for you guys too.
So you go back 3 quarters ago, and the threshold was 22% THC. And all of a sudden became 24. It became very difficult for us to get even more and more product on that basis. What's interesting is we're seeing a really rec feel where, like I said before, is patients are, yes, they have a medical card, but they don't really care much about getting their script and insurance filled. They care about going to get their cannabis supply of high THC, 24 and above. So if you're seeing a little bit of a cool Colombian story and a good feel, we think we can market it pretty hard and aggressively and get it off shelves really quickly. So our focus is making sure first that we're able to get product in for sure on a monthly basis, knowing exactly what we could do, and then push it through our networks, both wholesale and pharmacy.
Okay, and then the 1,200, do you have opportunity to expand from that, or you think you can supply the 1,200 for like the next year or so, and then kind of move forward from there?
So the 1,200 number, the only reason we're using that and not saying more is because our filing statement way back said 1,200. It was specifically on ACA, the first license, where we sold, I don't know, 10, 12 million historically in cannabis. The Fatibo network's probably adding thousands and thousands more. So there's no issue and shortage of that. It's more the supply. Ironically, it's the supply, which it shouldn't be, but it is. The GMPU is very difficult. Going back, 12, 15 months ago, there was limited facilities. The big boys, the Auroras and the Canopies and so on and so forth, didn't want to sell to us. And we didn't also want to remarket their product at a higher cost. Didn't make sense. So we've been for a number of years trying to figure out the supply issue. We've signed, historic agreements with the Curaleafs of the world who never delivered, plenty of others. And now we're finally in a situation where Luis was being a bit conservative with 20% THC. They're hitting way higher in Colombia. And now it's just a matter of connecting the two and getting the product into the country and let Jan and NASCO do their job on the distribution front.
Okay, I appreciate the color. I'll jump back in the queue, but I just wanted maybe a timing on the EU GMP certification and the importance of that too, but I'll jump back in the queue. Thanks for the questions.
Yeah, no, I think we can answer that right away. Jason, would you like to give an update on EU GMP?
Sure. Yeah, I was going to say that's a great question, Scott. Just quickly, everyone, thanks for bringing me in, Luis. We don't need to have EU GMP in our facility to begin selling today. We've been obviously working with Cliff and the team during this process and actually moving product around the world already. Our EU GMP is still on pace for the next quarter or so. However, we can still convert that material through a third party into the German market immediately. And so we have multiple agreements in multiple countries, and we've been testing the flow of that since some time, Scott. So this is actually, how do I say, this deal accelerates our opportunity to reach the market, but this is a process we've been going on for months and months before this. So our EU GMP is more focused on derivatives. The flour that we're talking about here is through a conversion or a tolling through multiple entry points. So we're not waiting for that. Long answer short.
Fantastic.
Thanks, Jason, and thank you, Scott. We really appreciate the questions.
Thanks, Scott.
So with that, or if there are any other questions, please, again, feel free to raise your hand. Otherwise, we are just a little bit over. So if there's any last minute questions, we're happy to take them, but otherwise we'll begin to wrap up. All right. Well, thank you all again for joining us today. After we wrap this up, we will have the recording of this webcast posted to the Flora Investor Center. So please do take a look there if you'd like to watch the recording. And otherwise, have a great day. Thank you all so much again for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.